Welcome back to the BFB podcast. Season's rolling, everything's starting, and we're starting to see some storylines come up, and the year's starting to get going on a good note. A lot of excitement. College baseball is headed in a great direction, as always. We have some things that are changing, new teams, new faces. I figure we'll start with something kind of new. Also, I am alone today. Connor went to Denver, not here this week. I'm going solo. Might be shorter. A little special for me. Not special for you. All right, so we're going to start off with some news. First thing that comes to my mind, news-wise, is Maui Ahuna getting reinstated and Vitello lifting his suspension. I mean, he is probably going to be arguably their best offensive player this year. From what I can tell, everything I'm hearing, really, really good at Kansas. Came to Tennessee, he's trying to show what he's about. I think that crowd today, really, when we're filming it, I'm filming on Tuesday, I bet the crowd goes absolutely bananas when he comes up to bat today. They always love Tony V, and the Tennessee crowd really gets behind their guys. I think that'll definitely be something that's fun to watch and kind of see the attitude that Tennessee comes out with today. I think they'll kind of have a chip on their shoulder, and it'll be something that kind of drives them towards the future and having that stable shortstop in the lineup, even though Jazz Love has been really good so far. Having a stable shortstop in the lineup who's somebody that's going to produce for you and be one of your top guys. And when you're looking for a shortstop, you're also looking for a leader. I think Ahuna, from what I've seen with the dance pregame too, is probably one of those guys. Probably going to lead by example. Be that guy you can kind of look for. Next thing we're going to talk about is the pitch clock. Now, it was a thing last year for the pitchers, but not really the hitters. So the hitters never had to worry about getting in the box on time and just being on time in general at all. It was still kind of at their pace, even though the pitchers had to be delivering in the 15 seconds or whatever it is. There still weren't many umpires that were really calling it. At the same time, you'd have a few that would call it, but you could really just step off, arm fake, and you'd be fine. But this year, I think we're seeing they're ramping it up a lot more. With that ramp up, it's also catching a bunch of people off guard because the guys aren't fully used to it. And as the season goes along, they'll all get used to it. It won't even be a problem by the end of the year. Speeds the game up, which is obviously good for baseball. I think in the major league games, it's already taken down from like 23 minutes in spring training, which is huge if you're talking about a 3-hour game compared to a 2-hour and 30-minute game, 2-hour and 40-minute game. I mean, I heard Jeff Passan talking about it yesterday. He was talking about you look at like the runtime of a movie when it comes out before you go, and it was like, yeah, of course. Like if a movie's 3 hours, I'm probably not going to go. And it's the same thing. You can't expect somebody to really watch 3 hours of baseball all the time. But I think the pitch clock's going to be great for the game of baseball and just the overall pace of play. And you're definitely going to have some heated moments. Kind of wish that in like the 8th or 9th inning, they would just take it away. I mean, like we saw the other day with LSU and Kansas State. That's a terrible way to end the game. Even though it wasn't really that close of a game, like there were guys on base. You would love to have a rally. Like if that comes to it, that dude could have got a base knock. Could have got a couple doubles after that, a bomb. I mean, who knows what could have happened, but I mean, it's just part of the game now, and people are going to have to get used to it, and they will by the end of the year. But still, you don't like seeing that be the ending of a late inning, close game. Luckily, we haven't had really any of those yet, but hopefully that won't affect for too long. I think pitchers are already pretty used to it. You won't really see many pitchers take the full 15 seconds. I think the hitters, it's probably going to be more of an adjustment period for, just because they haven't been dealing with it for a year like the pitchers have. And for pitchers, slower pitchers, it's like dictating the running game, I would say, is where it's probably going to affect it the most. Long holds, short holds. Long holds will be a lot harder now to do, especially with the pickoff rule too. Like if you can only pick off a certain amount of times, what's stopping that guy from taking the next base? I mean, I think it's really kind of a hindrance on the pitcher controlling the run game. Yeah, I think overall it's going to be really good for baseball and it's kind of really good for everybody watching. Pitch clock is definitely something that has been all over the news this week. I mean, even Pat McAfee's talking about it. And if Pat McAfee's talking about baseball, it's probably something pretty serious in the game. And hearing them talk about it was entertaining and it was also good. Especially know that these guys are getting more excited about baseball. They're like, okay, they're the average viewer. So if they're getting excited about it and knowing what's going on in baseball, that's a good sign for the direction that baseball is headed in. I think the pitch clock is helping that a ton. Bigger bases in the MLB will help that a ton. Not sure about the shift. Not sure how I feel about that yet. I don't think it'll be too bad, but we'll see. I mean, it's going to be interesting. With pitch clock, talking about LSU and Kansas State, I mean, it was a great game, but it sucks to see it kind of end that way. That's not the way anybody. Next piece of news that we got is Northwestern. Now, Kendall Rogers put out a tweet yesterday talking about Northwestern's two assistants, their hitting coach and their pitching coach. So their two paid assistants were left the program yesterday. As a team that's like 0-8 in the Big Ten, so at a big conference, Power 5 conference, to have only a head coach and volunteer assistant at 0-8, and then this weekend they're going to play. Starting off 0-8, and then this weekend going down to Louisiana Tech. I mean, it's probably not great for them, I would imagine. I mean, Louisiana Tech's obviously a really, really good program, especially now, and I had to guess they're probably going to be 0-11 by the end. We lost a volley last year while I was playing, and even that was tough. I mean, you have coaches who go recruiting sometimes in season. You're stuck without a first base coach if your manager chooses to be from the dugout, which a lot of them do, and I think that that's going to be an interesting dynamic. Just have a head coach and a volley, because there's so many. There's 35 guys for 2 of them to control all of it. It's going to be really, really tough. I'm sure they'll find somebody to come help and kind of make it a little bit easier and run smoother. But at the same time, if you're a player, you're almost helpless at that point. Like, how much can the coaching staff do for me? How much can I do for them without the direction and headspace that they're in? Right? I would imagine it's going to be a rough few weeks for Northwestern. At the same time, you never know. The guys could rally around it, and it could be kind of a building block for their program, and we'll see. But right now, it's not looking good for Northwestern. Another team it's not looking good for, or did not look good for this past weekend, was Texas A&M. Team it looked good for, Portland. Portland looked unbelievable this weekend. They didn't just beat Texas A&M. Like, it wasn't just close games. Like, they whooped Texas A&M, which is very alarming if you're a Texas A&M fan, but at the same time, you don't want to overreact. Second weekend of the year, Texas A&M always going to be a good program. Schwarzenegger always going to have good teams, but not a lot of bubbles this past week. I mean, the Texas A&M team did not show up. Got, I think, probably taken by surprise by Portland. You don't really know anything about them. They're the pilots. If you're in Texas A&M, you don't really ever see anything about Portland. You have no clue. You're kind of probably coming into the weekend expecting to roll over these guys, and they just put it on them. And I thought that was pretty crazy. When I saw the first score on Friday, I was extremely surprised. And then when I saw it Saturday, too, I was like, oh my goodness, how did this happen? And we got a lot of flack for leaving Texas A&M in our top 10, but I think they're still a good enough program to where this isn't going to affect them too much. And they might have lost a weekend series at the beginning of the year, non-conference, but I mean, really, as long as they make the tournament, they're fine. We saw that with Ole Miss last year. They were one of the last 4 teams in, ended up winning the whole thing. So if you're a Texas A&M fan, I really wouldn't be worried about what's going on with the team and how they're developing right now. I would just forget about that weekend and just move forward, because Texas A&M, they had the players. They proved it the weekend before where they can rake and just smash people. Everybody has an off weekend, and they'll be fine. Another team that got smacked, absolutely embarrassed at home this weekend, and thought UCF looked really, really good. Obviously, Clemson did not look good, as they got daddy smacked all weekend, swept at their home place. UCF celebrating at the end. They go in, they take their showers, their post-game showers. They're like, hey, taking these in the football field. We got the hill coming down where Clemson enters Death Valley. Can't not run down that hill. And the video got out, and that was an awesome moment. I mean, I'm sure a bunch of Clemson fans are pissed off and saying they're getting disrespected or whatever, but at the same time, it's like, don't get swept at your own home field, and they're not going to be running down that hill. I mean, you can't really defend Clemson when UCF came in there and just ran the weekend. So you run the weekend, you get to run down the hill at Clemson. And I thought that was incredible. Would absolutely love to see them meet in a regional. That would be unbelievable, as we're kind of building storylines going towards the tournament. But yeah, I think that would just be... UCF Knights are looking good. A lot better than I would have expected. We knew they would be decent, but with this past weekend, they look legit. Like, they look like a legit contender, top 25 team, something you wouldn't have expected with kind of the way they've been the past few years, but really took it to Clemson, kind of showed, hey, we're here to stay. We're going to be good always. ECU, we picked them third in the American, and with that, I mean, they're going to have some good series, especially with Houston and ECU this year. I think those will be really fun. John Reese Plumlee was actually the one that posted the video, and he was at Ole Miss, then came to UCF. I think he's a Florida guy, and dual sport athlete, played quarterback at Ole Miss and UCF, and I think he's kind of one of those guys that just gets the team rolling. I don't know that he necessarily that talented on the baseball field or really helps them that much, but I think in the dugout he's probably their dude. And kind of the leader of the team, gets them rolling, gets them going, keeps the vibes high. And this past weekend, we actually had some really good series. I mean, the ECU UNC series was unbelievable. Both games were really, really good games. And ECU pulled out both of them, which I thought was a big deal for them. I mean, I'm sure sometimes they feel kind of like the little brother in the state of North Carolina, even though they're a perennial powerhouse. But when you have two powerhouse programs, it's hard to compete with the one that has more money. I think ECU just kind of showed UNC, like, we don't care that you got more money. We got the better players. We're going to go outplay you. And they did that, even if it was Friday where all the runs were pretty much scored in one inning for ECU, and kind of got outplayed for probably 7 innings of the game. I thought they looked really, really good. Pitching looked good. Hitting looked good. Jenkins, Cowart always looking good. Saylor always looking good. Both those guys are probably going to push them towards having another really, really good year. Probably being a regional host, super regional host again. They look like they're still that team. Vanderbilt, UCLA, also really, really good. All of our series that we decided to cover to pick last week ended up having rubber matches on Sunday, except for the ECU one. I thought the Vandy UCLA was really good. It was what you expect from those two programs. Both really disciplined programs, but also exciting, especially UCLA on the mound, Vandy at the plate and on the mound. I think just at the plate, Vandy was probably a little bit better than UCLA was, which was kind of what I was thinking going in. I knew, both of them have really good arms, so it was kind of which offense do you think was going to do better, and especially here in Nashville, I think Vandy's offense just kind of proved that they're a force to be reckoned with this year. They're not the Vandy from last year where they were young and still building. Like, they have dudes now that are more experienced, more mature, that are kind of going to put it on their back. I mean, Enrique Bradfield breaking Vandy's all-time steals record last weekend was pretty crazy, especially at the beginning of the year in your third year. I don't think people realize how insane that is. He takes bags like nobody's business. But so next series we picked out last week was Ole Miss, Maryland. Ole Miss taking it, losing Friday, winning Saturday, Sunday. I mean, I thought it was kind of what you'd expect from this series. Maryland always really good. Ole Miss always really good. Maryland took the Friday night game, which I didn't expect, and Ole Miss took Saturday, Sunday, which was probably exactly what they're looking for. You're looking for that. Right now, you're just looking for your team to fight. If you can see your teams fighting right now, then you're probably set up for a pretty good spot in the future, especially at Ole Miss with that talent they have down there. With the talent that they have down there, if they can fight, like, they're gonna have a good year. A bunch of guys. They don't have Tim Elko, so I think they were kind of looking for a leader. But Chatagnier looks like he's gonna be really good, and Tywone Malone looks absolutely electric. That dude is fantastic to watch. He's exciting. He's fun. He's funny. I mean, gonna enjoy watching those guys this year. I think Ole Miss is in for another really good year, hoping to defend their title. I don't really know much about this team yet, but right now they look good. I mean, I haven't lost a series yet. So kind of the next one we're talking about, we're getting back into the mid majors, like we were talking about last week. Like, put a focus on them. Oral Roberts and Texas State. I mean, the talent that Texas State had last year, and with what they did in the first weekend this year, I kind of thought this was going to be supposed to be a good series, but almost a blowout series. And I thought it was going to go in the way of Texas State because, like I said, the talent they had last year, the things we saw against Texas last year, the super regional with Stanford, those times are extremely important for this year. I thought being battle-tested, Texas State would come in and kind of dish it to Oral Roberts, but we're wrong. Oral Roberts kind of came through on Saturday and Sunday, almost the same thing as Ole Miss. Another team that is in a regional almost every year. I think they've won it like 20 out of the last 22 years in their conference. So Oral Roberts, always a really good program, and they kind of showed like, hey, you might have gotten good this past few years, but we'll still show you we compete at the top level, and you're gonna have to play your best to beat us. And I thought, especially Sunday, I was kind of expecting to be a close game. I tuned in, and it's 8-3 in the eighth, and really surprised. It's a really, really good sign for Oral Roberts and Oral Roberts fans. I think Oral Roberts looked really, really good. But yeah, I think overall for Texas State, you shouldn't be too disappointed. I mean, Oral Roberts is a really, really good program, and they do this year in, year out. Texas State is going to be really, really good again this year. They're going to compete in the Sun Belt and kind of see where that takes them. Then for the last series that we picked last week was Jacksonville State, Southern Illinois, and this is another one where I kind of thought it was going to be almost like a little bit of a blowout. I thought Southern Illinois had a lot more talented team, but same time, Jack State, from what I was watching, it looked like they just had a lot more fight. Jack State wasn't as talented, obviously, like watching the games, but they use the talent they do have, and they punch you in the mouth as often and as hard as they can. They use momentum, kind of swing. It's a lot of fight from that team. I think watching them is actually pretty fun. Like TJ and AJ. AJ Causey, TJ Reeves are both really good players, and picked them as some of our top guys for this year. And we kind of said it was the them two show this year. But also you got the emergence of Michael Dallas, who transferred from Kentucky to Jacksonville State this year, and he's going to be a big piece for him. I think that a good bat to have in the lineup. He was offered multiple two-way scholarships in high school for football, or two sports scholarships in high school for football and baseball. So, he's got that fight to him. He was a quarterback. Like, we always had the old saying, like, you want high school quarterbacks in your team because those are the guys that are going to lead and kind of push guys to be better. I thought Jacksonville State really showed that. I thought they showed fight. I thought they showed character. I thought they played some really good baseball, and overall taking the weekend from SIU, who was normally a really good team, especially the past few years. Was probably a big series win for them, one they were looking forward to start the year. Next, we got this week's matchups that we're looking forward to. First one we got is South Carolina versus Clemson. I mean, this is always a really good matchup. Always something you kind of look forward to at the beginning of the year. First game this year is going to be at Clemson, so that's huge for them, getting to stay at home. Second game always in Greenville, South Carolina, and then at a neutral site, and then third game at Carolina. And you always got those two in-state rivals. Like, this is, if you're from South Carolina, this is the series that you're looking forward to. If you're kind of going across the state to Columbia, to Clemson, Greenville, I think it's going to be a really, really good series. My pick is Carolina. Just because I think if they can sneak one of the first two, I think Sunday at home is going to be hard for Clemson. It's going to be hard for Clemson to beat Carolina. Carolina's always good. Always got that place rocking at Founders. And kind of what you're going to get from them. They're looking like they're on the upswing. Clemson does look good, but after last week, I think they're probably mentally not in the right spot. And I think if Carolina can just take one of the first two, they'll end up winning. Never predict a sweep, but I think kind of the goal for South Carolina is they're going into this week. I'm going to take South Carolina. Next one we got is going to be Miami, Florida, which will probably be rank-wise, probably going to be the best weekend of the series, or best series of the weekend. Miami, really, really good. Florida, from what we've seen, might be the most talented team in the country. Florida, every year in, year out, really, really good. Same thing with Miami. But Florida's arms this year, especially the one they got from Southern Miss, Waldrop, he looks lights out. He looks like he might be the best pitcher in college baseball. It might be between him, Skeens, Dollander, and Burns. But those guys are going to be in it. I'm going to take Florida in this one. I don't think Miami has the firepower on the mound or at the plate. I think they're a really good team, but I think Florida will probably take 2 out of 3. Next three we got are kind of mid-major, kind of not. First one we got Lipscomb versus Auburn. Obviously going to be at Auburn, but I was going to pick a series where I think you're going to want to take the upset. I would definitely take this one. Lipscomb has shown they've been really, really good this year. Took 2 out of 3 from Notre Dame, played really well this past weekend, and just overall, Lipscomb has looked really, really good, and like a team that's going to contend in the ASUN and may make a tournament run as well. Forehand's got the guys coached up. Against Butch Thompson will be tough, but I think it's a great head coach matchup. You got two guys who have been in it for forever, pretty much. Lipscomb has the opportunity, that series. I think Lipscomb has the opportunity to take the series, although Auburn is probably a little bit more talented. I think Auburn loses a lot of guys from last year, so a lot of their key guys. I mean, they lost DeShera and some other guys, Burkhalter, I assume. Yeah, Auburn, I think they have some question marks on the mound. I don't know if they can get it done there. I think Lipscomb's bats are kind of underrated for what we've seen so far. So I think Lipscomb's actually got a really good chance to go in. definitely, in my opinion, definitely win a game, possibly take the series. I think the Auburn team might be a little overrated by some. I just don't think they're as good as people think. So I'm going to take Auburn, but I would not be surprised if Lipscomb came in and took that series. If I was gonna put money on it, I would put it on Lipscomb every day, because they're probably gonna take one game and you're probably gonna get your money back. So next thing we got is Georgia Southern versus UCF. I think this is going to be a really, really, really good series, especially with what we've seen from UCF last week. I mean, we always know Georgia Southern is going to be really good. They got Ty Fisher coming back on the mound. Friday night guy from last year. He had like a no-hitter in the ninth in the regional against UNC Wilmington or Greensboro, one of the two. But he's always going to be good. You know what you're going to get strikes, probably 88, 89 on Friday. Just pop in the zone, flipping breakers in. It's kind of his MO. So he's really solid on the mound. You're always going to get competitiveness, consistency from him. But I think with UCF this past weekend, it's going to be hard to kind of pick a winner in this one. I think Georgia Southern looks really, really good, and I think UCF looks really, really good. Georgia Southern dropping one last week to Georgia Tech wasn't great, but I think they had the lead for most of the game until late. So I think they're still feeling good. Had a good weekend this past weekend, but for this one I'm going to take Georgia Southern. Really, it's coin flip. I think it being at UCF definitely helps. UCF being at home, they want to show out. There'll probably be a big crowd after last weekend. When you take a series, when you sweep Clemson, it's going to bring in more fans. UCF could make a statement here. If they beat Georgia Southern, I think that's a huge statement for UCF, and just kind of starts them on a roll for the beginning of their season. So I think that'll be an interesting matchup. And then for the last matchup of the week, we have Texas State versus Grand Canyon. I mean, I feel like these two are probably have been in it a lot so far, but these are two of the top kind of Group of 5 and mid-major teams that we have. We don't have Texas State technically as a mid-major because they're in the Sun Belt, but they're close. They have a lot more money than normal, but I would say even Grand Canyon probably has a lot more money than normal, but they're in a conference that we deemed a mid-major conference. But I think this is going to be really good. Texas State, obviously really good. Coming off the Oral Roberts loss, still want to prove something. And then Grand Canyon, really, really good from what we've seen so far. I mean, Jacob Wilson looks like an absolute stud. I know if I was looking for a shortstop as an MLB team, he would definitely be my guy to take this year. I think he's solid. I think he's a leader. I think he knows what he's doing. He's been in baseball his whole life. Dad's a coach. I mean, that's kind of what you're looking for. But I think Grand Canyon probably takes this at their home field, and I think that's probably going to be what's best. And yeah, I think Grand Canyon's going to take this series and make another statement when, I mean, from what I've seen so far, I think Grand Canyon's going to be a force to be reckoned with this year. Shown to be really, really good so far, and I think that crowd's going to come out again like it did against Tennessee. And that's all we got for this one. I know it's probably a little bit shorter, but I hope you guys enjoyed it. I hope you kind of see my insights on everything, and don't forget to like, share, subscribe, and don't miss next week.